Hi, and welcome back to Death and Beyond, part 11 already today. Now, it's been a while that I've published part 10, which was about reincarnation and why I really didn't like to deal with the topic, and why I then slowly and steadily did start to research on this subject anyway. And a very crucial aspect of this was this book. And those who are watching the video can see it now because I'm holding it into the camera. And I will probably post the videos now from now onwards on the podcast platforms too, because I've been told that's a good thing. And also for this particular episode, it's a real win because we have pictures in this book. And I want to show you one of them. Now, this book by Ian Stevenson is an excerpt of a larger work, and even this has a few dozen, if not over 100, I haven't counted them, but case studies about the topic of reincarnation. And I want to show you one of them. And obviously, this is the German translation, and it has a title about proofs for reincarnation. And I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't call it that proof, because it's not hard proof. And that's mainly because we are talking about reports and memories, and that's always prone to potential error that can creep in. So it's not hard proof, but the mass of these cases that he has collected, in some, I think, suggests that there is a probability, and it's plausible to think of reincarnation as something real, that we might actually have more than one life. And that, by extension, means that some part of us, some crucial part of us, probably consciousness, can exist outside or independent of our bodies, because something has to live on and incarnate in another body, if reincarnation is a fact. So, and we have to take that into consideration, in my opinion. So let me show you this interesting case. I want to show you a case of a girl that was born in Burma or Burma. Also, one correction, Stevenson traveled all over the world to find those cases, and it wasn't just India and North America, it was also Turkey, for example, and Thailand. So a lot of countries where the culture is such, or there are cultures or religions that don't brush it away right away when a little child starts speaking and starts to recount memories from a prior life, but where people take it seriously and then can remember it because they maybe even tested the child about it. So this girl was born with certain moles and birth defects or deformations on her body. She had a mole on her left side of the upper body, around the heart area, on the head, and also one of her fingers, the fifth finger, was missing on one of her hands. And then she also had, which is quite impressive and interesting, deformations on her legs. And I'm holding the photo into the camera now, this photo. And there you can see that the right leg, there is kind of constriction on the upper leg, and another one, not as strong, on the lower leg of the other side. And on the opposite side of the other leg, so to speak, there's some kind of color, a different color, which is parallel on the other leg to the constriction on the lower leg. That may not be very visible on the photo, but that's also described here. And this girl actually remembered being a man in her prior life. She also knew the name of the man, and she remembered how this man died. And he died when he was attacked in his home, and he was stabbed in his left side of the upper body around the heart area, and he was hit on the head and fingers were cut off. And then they thought he was dead, but apparently he still wasn't, because she, the girl, remembered that this man heard the other men, his murderers, talk about how to get rid of the body, and that they wanted to just flex his lower legs upwards to the back of the upper leg, and then put a rope around there and fixate that so the body would be shorter and could be put into a sack. And that's what they did. And then they put the body in the sack into a well, an old well. And apparently the wife of this man was complicit in the crime, and so she told the police that just her man had left her. Her husband had left her. And so the police didn't investigate any further. This widow then married one of the murderers, and then later on they had a fight with each other and drank alcohol, and then they started speaking about this murder, and a neighbor overheard that, and went to the police. And the police then found the body in the old well and pulled it out, and it turned out that the body had been prepared in the way that this girl remembered, and had been bound in this way. And now the thing is that the mother of this girl, when she was pregnant, passed along when the body of this man was just being pulled out of the well and found. And so she saw that. And then the night after that, she dreamed of a man who followed her on his knees or on stumps or something. And obviously that could have been just a psychological reaction to what she had just seen. And the problem now is that obviously this girl could have heard mom talk about this incident at some point with dad and could have made up a story around it. But even if that was the case, it's very surprising that her leg deformations, not just the moles that corresponded to the wounds from the fight, but also her leg deformations, were such that if you were to flex her lower legs back and bind them to the upper legs, these deformations would fit the measures, would fit the places where the rope could have been wound around. Now, Stevenson says that he couldn't verify the exact placement of the ropes on the dead body, on the corpse, but that's the level of detail he goes to usually to try to verify, but that it's rather plausible because from the measures it would fit on her body, and that is a little bit surprising. I mean, also this girl recognized one of the murderers and was very afraid of him. But yeah, it's something that happened in the area and where she lived, and her mother had knowledge of that and all that. But I think if you put that together with her body deformations that are so close to what happened to that man, then this gets really, well, a quite surprising coincidence. And if that's one case, you can say, well, it's a coincidence. Very surprising, very odd and weird, but could be a coincidence. But this book is full of this kind of coincidences. And that's not all the cases he has collected. So I think in sum, that makes it quite more probable and more plausible that the stories of these children are actually correct. Some of the children have been tested also. There's another case I just read where the dead person was in the family and the child remembered to have been this person, and then the wife of the dead person came to test the child and brought things that belonged to her husband and things that didn't belong to her husband and let the child sort which is which, and it could do that. And then they also talked about details of their marital life and all that. So things that the child probably couldn't have known otherwise. But yeah, that's also reports and memories and things where not everything is, bulletproof. Also, these children often behave like the person from the life before, the prior life they remember. And if they are girls and in prior life they were men, they behave like boys, for example, or the other way around, and in more traditional societies. And that's all in the 20th century, like 1960s, 1970s. That's rather unusual, and there's also huge resistance in the family, in the society. So you have to push against resistance for that. So that could mean something too. But actually, what I think is really convincing is the mass of odd coincidences between marks on the body that were there from birth and wounds on the bodies of the people these children remembered to have been in a prior life. So, for that reason, I came to the conclusion that although there's no hard proof for the existence of reincarnation, it is rather plausible and rather probable that this is how it works. That's at least an option, that we live multiple lives. And so I had to come to terms with that. And I did further research, and I found something different and quite interesting. And that's the work of Michael Newton. And I won't tell you more about that today in this episode, but rather in the next, or at least in one of the next episodes, one of the later episodes. But I wanted to share something with you, a story that he told about his first case. Michael Newton was a hypnotherapist, and he usually did age regressions. So that just means you take a person back into their youth, into their childhood, in hypnosis, in a hypnotic trance, to find old wounds, problems, trauma, to remove that or to heal that. It's a very classical technique of hypnotherapy. And he did that. He used to do that with his clients. And then at some point, he coincidentally took a client back into a past life. And that wasn't something he wanted to do. He was a skeptic. He didn't believe in past lives. That just happened. And that life of that client was during the Second World War. And he was a soldier, or the person, I don't know if it was a man in this life, but in the past life, it was a man, a soldier. And Michael Newton, because he was a skeptic, tried to gather as much information as possible from this client during the trance stage, during the regression to that past life, and noted it all down. And because it wasn't too far back in time and quite well documented, Second World War and soldier and all that, he could actually later then find these data and verify these data, and so verify what the client had told him about his past life. And that was the point when he thought there's something about reincarnation, that it's not just something you don't have to take seriously. And then he went on to other things that are quite interesting. And he tells this story, and that's just how I remember it. Mind you, memory can be a little bit misleading and incorrect. So check it out yourself. I think that he told this story in one of his books, and I've just checked 3 of his books to see if I remember that correctly, but it's in none of these books. And there is another book that I have given away to someone else to read, so I can't check it there at the moment. And I once found a video where he told the story himself, but I didn't find that either today. So if I find that later on, I will put the link in the description. Otherwise, just go on and check it yourself. But that's how I remember it. And I thought that's quite convincing too. The Stevenson cases in some total, and the story that Michael Newton told pretty much convinced me that, yeah, I have to take reincarnation into consideration as a fact, as something that actually exists and happens. So I don't know what your conclusions are. Let me know what you think about reincarnation, and if you find that convincing, if you find it plausible, probable, or not, or if you have always believed in it maybe, or maybe have memories yourself. Let me know in the comments, and yeah, would love to hear about what you think about it, and what your experiences are. And I hope to see you soon again here. Have a good time. Until next time, and bye for now.